Hello and welcome to coverage of round 3 here at Grand Prix DC. Maria Bertholdi in the booth, joined by Jacob Van Lunen. There you can see a look of our feature match area and the teams we'll be watching. First thing, we've got a time walk match on our back table there. Seth Manfield, Corey Baumeister, and Frank Skarin versus the team of Taejin Hao, Kelvin Chu, and Fabian Lee. And Seth Manfield, only the best in the world, ranked number 1 there, you can see on his name. Kelvin Chu, though, ranked number 16, was at Worlds earlier.
Yeah, Kelvin Chu has been putting up pretty good results all over the world as of late. So if you get a chance to compete in the World Championship, you're pretty much at the highest level that you could get to.
You've done pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah, Kelvin Chu was there, and he did quite well in that tournament. Pretty impressive up-and-comer.
Yeah, his teammates, though, Tay and Fabian. I imagine they both know their way around a magic card if Kelvin chose to team with them. Maybe they're his close friends. We don't really know the backstory. I like to think that they are very close friends. Yeah.
Seth Manfield teaming with Corey Baumeister and Frank Skarin. A little bit of a powerhouse team there as well. Both teams currently sitting at 2-0 as we head into round 3. And let's kick things off here on Table C. Frank Skarin versus Fabian Lee. Frank Skarin kicking things off in style with some red and green mana. I haven't seen this little goblin hit the table very many times. Green and black for Fabian. Perhaps we've got a Slimefoot in our future.
Yeah, so Bloodstone Goblin is a creature that gets bigger and gains menace when you use a kicked spell. I like that they used the word kicked. They made it past tense. But if you're playing a red-green deck, those are two colors that have a lot of kicker cards. And it looks like Frank is actually playing 3 copies of Bloodstone Golem in his deck. So
really?
He's playing a much more aggressively bent deck.
So I assume he's got some Halar the Fire Fletcher in there as well?
He does have 1 copy of Halar the Fire Fletcher.
And just a lot of things to kick, I assume.
Yeah, he also has a Grand Warlord Rada, which is a pretty fun card to play with if you had a chance to paddle with it.
Able to get in for 2, knocking Lee down to 18. And here, one of my favorite cards in the set, Skittering Surveyor, is going to skit up a Plains here for Lee.
Yeah, one of my absolute favorites also. Really the best fixing available in this set.
I first picked it in a draft. What do you think of that?
I like your style. That's what I'm going to say. I really do, because it's a card that I'm going to be first picking it at some point in a draft. You know, I'm just under 20 drafts deep, and I haven't yet, but I've been close more than once.
Here's the Keldon Raider from Frank Skarin. You get to Rummage. We're going to discard that Get to Journey Mage. Or excuse me, Get to Chronicler. And pass the turn back over to Fabian Lee.
Yeah, Keldon Raider, when I first read the card, I thought, oh, I'm going to be pretty impressed with this. This looks like a pretty good body plus ability combination. The thing is, there are a lot of 3-drops in the format that are 3/2s, so you're often trading down with your Keldon Raider.
A Thallid Omnivore for Lee.
And this has been a really impressive card. If you've played a lot with this set, Thallid Omnivore, just, the threat of activation, as you spoke about in round 1 when we saw Thallid Omnivore. In addition, it's just also very good at defending against things like Bolas's Clutches. It's very good at, blocking and then sacrificing creatures to prevent lifelink. A lot of play to that card.
All right, Skizik hits the table here for Frank Skarin. A Blast from the Past coming in with haste, trample 5/3.
Yeah, and that's also going to trigger the Bloodstone Goblin's ability. So now that Bloodstone Goblin is also going to have menace and +1/+1.
The whole team turned sideways here for Skarin. No mana available to pump the Omnivore here for Lee, so it's just going to trade with the Skizik, but we're going to take a couple damage in the process. The Surveyor jumps in front of the Keldon Raider.
Yeah, so Fabian now already down to 11 here. The trample from Skizik getting in for 2, and those 2 fairly large bodies still on the board.
Mammoth Spider coming down for Lee.
And that's going to be pretty good card to put the brakes on for Frank. Frank needs a kicked spell here to continue attacking with that Goblin. Frank, though, does have access to both Fight with Fire and Fiery Intervention.
Speaking of Fiery Intervention, there we go. Down goes the Spider. In comes the team for Skarin, keeping the pressure on here. Back over to Lee. See if he can put anything together to stop the assault here on the other side of the table.
And ideally, Lee wants to be double spelling here or playing something that gives him multiple bodies.
And here we go. Yavimaya Sapper does just that. Comes along with a 1/1 Sapperling creature token.
I like imagining the bobbing dance as described in the flavor text on Yavimaya Shepherd.
I've never read that.
We've
That's
seen a lot of
awesome.
flavor text over the years from Sarpadian Empires. A lot of it's pretty funny. I'd like to read that book.
Sport Crown Thallid here is going to pump up the entire team for Lee, and this is exactly kind of what he needed to do. I don't think he could have asked for a better turn, really, under the circumstances.
This puts him in a really good position. Now, even if Frank is able to trigger the Bloodstone Goblin, it's still unlikely that he's going to have good attacks here. Frank really needs to, push through these final points of damage. He may end up needing to wait a while and then eventually kick something like a Fight with Fire. But at this point in the game, it looks like Fabian has kind of turned the corner here. And Frank's deck, which looks quite a bit less powerful on paper, may have trouble, really fighting a fair fight. He needs to kind of reach through to get through those final points of damage.
All right, there is a kicked Untamed Kavu for Frank Skarin. Mythic Uncommon is going to trigger that Bloodstone Goblin once again, and the Keldon Raider is going to hit the red zone as well.
Yeah, so Fabian with some good blocks here.
Kavu's so good.
Yeah.
Just flexible card, comes either down for 5 or for 2 if you need it. Vigilance and Trample.
So I imagine that Fabian's going to be just blocking everywhere, cleaning up the board. It really needs an answer now to this Untamed Kavu, which, has 5 power, which is equivalent to his life total. But
all right, we're able to clean things up a little bit with those blocks from Lee. Now just a 5/5 on the other side of the table, which, as you pointed out, is exactly how many life Fabian is at. All right, Eviscerate will take care of the Kavu. Back over to Frank.
And one thing I'd like to point out here is that Frank's deck is playing quite a bit of pump spells, like quite a few pump spells. And now he's played out most of his threats and didn't have an opportunity to use any of those pump spells profitably. So he may end up drawing some of those off the top of his deck. And that's one of the major problems with playing pump spells Unlimited, is that when when all your creatures are dealt with, those cards become dead draws often.
Memorial to Unity is going to give Skarin a peek at the top of his library. Looks at the top 5. He can choose a creature card from among them and put it into his hand. And the rest go on the bottom of the library. Normally, you kind of like to use this card either when you're developing at the beginning or at the end of the game when you're like, well, I suppose I'll do this.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice value to get off of a land that you would have wanted to be playing anyway. Some nice flood insurance. They've done a really good job with the design of Dominaria, making it so that you never feel like you get flooded and lose the game because of it. I guess you do sometimes, but it's much more rare than in other formats.
Territorial Allosaurus is the choice here for Skarin, which is a pretty good one.
It's a fine choice.
So access to 6 mana right now. 7 to kick it.
Yeah, so if Fabian plays a creature that's smaller than a 5/5 and Frank is able to play a 7th land, then it turn out really well for Frank. Again, putting a creature whose power is equivalent to Fabian's life total on the table while also dealing with a threat.
The Allosaurus, a living remnant of the Ice Age. It would be pretty cool if it had been in Ice Age. All right. Urguros, the empty one, hits the table here for Fabian Lee. A 4/3 flyer. When it deals combat damage to a player, you've got to discard a card at random. If you can't, whoever owns it gets a draw card.
I've liked that card.
It's fine.
Yeah, I feel like it's a reasonable one.
The 3 toughness, I think, is its biggest sticking point.
Yeah, it's like a B-.
Fight with Fire is going to take it down. And there is Halara, the Fire Fletcher, indeed hitting the table for Frank Skarin. No 7th land drop yet, so we're going to hold out on the Allosaurus.
It was a bold move by Fabian to play out his flyer last turn, considering that if Frank had the 7th land, he could have kicked the Allosaurus. But Fabian may have had no answer to the Allosaurus anyway, and may have thought his best chance at victory was to simply play that card out. Worked out well for him there.
Thallid Omnivore here for Lee, along with Forebear's Blade, which can get pretty scary.
Yeah, and that's going to do it.
That's going to do it. We had the Allosaurus hit the table. Frank Skarin taking down game 1 there versus Fabian Lee.
Yeah, now the Halar, only a 3-power creature, but becoming a 4-power creature thanks to the kicked Allosaurus, and also the trigger, putting a Pulse Stone counter on it, and then dealing 1 damage to Fabian. So exactly 5 damage there, and clearing the way.
Skarin was the winner of Grand Prix Charlotte back in 2013. Philly in 2014, and he just made the top 8 once again in Hartford about a month ago.
Teaming up with a couple of heavy hitters here, Corey and Seth.
Fabian Lee, by the way, does have a GP top 8 and win at Kuala Lumpur back in 2014.
Kuala Lumpur, a beautiful city. Where we get the chance to go to Malaysia.
Oh, you've been there?
I have, yeah. Thanks to Magic. Turns out if you play a lot of Magic, it can take you places.
Here we are in round 3 of GPDC. Already we've seen tons of crazy stuff happen. It looks like a Song of Fraley's has been resolved on Seth Manfield's side of the battlefield. Take a peek in here at Table A, Manfield versus Taejun Hao.
Song of Fraley's is just one of my favorite cards in this set. I think it might be a little too good, even.
Right.
I think it's probably the 2nd best uncommon behind Impulse's Clutches. Just a really powerful single color card that, especially when played alongside Thalids, allows you to empty your hand quickly and then run your opponent over.
Tatyova Benthic Druid joins the team here for Manfield as well. It's a fabulous card we've seen already do work in rounds 1 and 2. Versus some blue-white action here from Tay.
Yeah, Tatyova's the kind of card that you're forced to get off the table, otherwise it's going to take over the game by itself, but the player who casts it is usually going to cast it and then play land on the same turn, so even when you deal with it, you already feel like you're behind. Its major drawback is that you have to be playing both blue and green, but when you're playing one of, the green decks that wants to be playing a card like Tatyova the most, then you kind of have the option to splash, and a lot of the time you'll see Tatyova out of green decks when they're only playing a few islands, maybe just one.
Ooh, the Weatherlight into play here for Tay. 4/5 flying ship. Crew cost of 3 whenever it deals combat damage to a player. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You can reveal a historic card from among them, put it into your hand. The rest go on the bottom.
So a few Trapper triggers there.
Tapping down the Omnivore and Whisper. Blood Liturgist. Yeah, the Trapper has really impressed me.
Yeah, as far as aggressive cards go, it's definitely at its best in these blue-white flyer type decks. I don't know if that's where you've been playing it the most.
Definitely, if I've got a lot of historic spells, in comes the Trapper.
Yeah.
I mean, the power can be like, for instance, it didn't really help out much in this current situation, but if you play a historic spell tapping down. He's got 2 in play, tapping down 2 blockers. Could be a pretty big game potentially.
Oh, absolutely. Force through a lot of damage, especially when Seth's only at 8 here. One of the things that I've really liked doing with Trapper is tapping down vigilance creatures, sometimes even something like Lyra, and then taking advantage of that with cards that punish the opponent for having tapped creatures. It's like Seal Away or Time of Ice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, by the way, in the graveyard for Seth as well. So some pretty spicy stuff has already happened in this game. Looks like our Omnivore is hitting the red zone for Manfield. Have you played much with Whisper?
I have not gotten much of an opportunity to play with that card. How about you?
I've played against it a couple of times, and I had played against it with a combination with Slimefoot.
Ooh.
And a Fungal Plots. So let's just say they were doing it. The Unicorn is going to jump right in front of the Thallid Omnivore there.
Yeah, Thallid Omnivore, the type of card that can force chump blocks for a long time. The Weatherlight on Tay's side of the board, though, very impressive threat here. Seth has no flyers.
2 hits, he's done.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he has any in his graveyard either.
I'm wondering if he has access to anything like Broken Bond. You usually say people main decking at least one of those cards.
Yeah, I like main decking a Disenchant effect in this format.
Absolutely.
Whisper, while it oftentimes makes boards very complicated, on this board it's kind of, playing a push and pull with the Thallid Omnivore there.
How do you mean?
In the sense that, you only have so many bodies, and if you're sacrificing 2 things to get 1 thing back, there's currently nothing in Seth's graveyard, and it's going to make his board smaller, which will mean that Tay might, not be as threatened by the Thallid, because as it currently stands, Seth could go all in and potentially win the game.
Skittering Surveyor here for Manfield. Searches up another swamp. So just as you mentioned, just playing that island as far as I can tell for Tatyova.
And the Skittering Surveyors do a lot of work when alongside a Tatyova.
Oh, yes.
Essentially a divination that comes along with a 1/2 artifact creature. And a life.
Ooh, Phyrexian Scriptures here from Seth.
Oh, wow. All right. So what's he going to make into an artifact? Probably Tatyova, I imagine.
Oh, it looks like it's going to be the Omnivore.
Nice.
Right. So he gets to put a +1/+1 counter on that Omnivore, and it's an artifact. And we are going to clean things up in Chapter 2 unless Tae Jun Hao can do something about these Phyrexian Scriptures.
And we had spoken earlier about how it's often correct to play 1 Disenchant type card in your deck, sometimes even 2. I see that Tay does have Blink of an Eye, so he can at least delay a bit with that if he needs to.
Yikes, but that's just... The thing is, Chapter 2, destroy all non-artifact creatures. The Weatherlight is going to stick around.
Yeah, and the Weatherlight, it probably wouldn't even be a creature then. But I guess Tay could activate it in response, then have a blocker up even afterward. It's just really hard to imagine a situation here where Tay can get out from under the Phyrexian Scriptures.
Here's Icy Manipulator. We've got 2 taps from the Trappers as well. Tap, tap, Llanowar Elves, and Whisper. Oh, Skittering Surveyor, excuse me. Oh, no. Seth was the one who heard wrong there. Seth is at 8. All right, when Trapper is going to crew the Weatherlight here. And the rest of the team gets in. Academy Journey Mage and the other Trapper swinging in as well.
If they're going to die, they might as well be attacking.
And we still have 1 mana up to activate the Manipulator.
Yeah, and that can hold back this Omnivore. Icy Manipulator, a fabulous card. Especially strong as a first pick in draft where you can play in any deck.
Oh, so good. It looks like Skittering Surveyor is going to block the Journey Mage here in Tatyova in front of the Trapper. Weatherlight gets in. I'm going to take a peek at the top of Tay's library here. Looking at the top 5 for a historic card. We've got Danitha. So Danitha in hand for Tay, passing back over to Seth. We're going to hit Chapter 2 here on our Phyrexian Scriptures. Down will go all non-artifact creatures, but we're going to have a Whisper activation here.
And that's going to return the Skittering Surveyor to the battlefield. And that's also an artifact, so it'll stick around as we get to Chapter 2. Icy Manipulator will be able to tap down that Omnivore, but...
All right, down go the Trapper and the Journey Mage. All that's left over is the Manipulator and the Weatherlight for Tay.
Still a dangerous situation for Seth. Very dangerous, even. I mean, there's, you know, this massive flyer that has 4 power, which is Seth's life total on the other end of the table. And Tay can play a creature able to crew that Weatherlight. Seth could just be dead. Seth pretty much needs a removal spell because even if he has a blocker for it, Tay will be at the ready with the Icy Manipulator.
All right, so the Skittering Surveyors are going to get in. Icy Manipulator taps down the Thallid Omnivore.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that one Skittering Surveyor was able to attack there because it just entered the battlefield at the beginning of Seth's upkeep there. So let's see if we can stop the game real quick. And is that a possibility? In the meantime, a 7/7 kicked Baloth Gorger.
I think he's just playing it for 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, okay.
Got it all sorted out here.
Yeah, I mean, it entered the battlefield as the very beginning of Seth's turn.
All right, so now they're just talking about what happened. Yeah, and we know that Tay has a Danitha in hand, and I believe he also has a Blink of an Eye in hand. So Danitha is not going to be big enough to crew the Weatherlight on her own.
Yeah, but...
Who else does he have? Benalish? Marshall, maybe? That's big enough. But he doesn't have a 3rd white mana.
Yeah, I'm not really sure here. I think things look really, really good for Tay, even though he just has those 2 permanents left in the battlefield. And Seth was able to just gain a pretty nice advantage there with Phyrexian Scriptures. And Weatherlight is just the exact size and ability set that Tay needs to win this game.
All right, can Tay do it? Oh, it's a 3rd Plains. All right. Here we go. He's got the Marshall, I think. Yep, and that can crew the Weatherlight and swing in.
That's probably it.
Is that it? Does Seth have a way to deal with this? He's going to shrink it down with fungal plots.
Infected.
Excuse me, fungal infection. I got excited.
We were having a nice conversation about fungal plots earlier. It's okay.
I like that card. This card, also very good.
This card is very, very good.
So we're still going to look at the top of Tay's library here as Seth drops down to 1. Quende, Pride of Femeref, will go into Tae Jun Hao's hand.
Quende, reasonable card on its own, but a card that combos pretty nicely with a lot of the other cards in the format.
All right, Chapter 3 will trigger here on Phyrexian Scriptures. We're going to exile these graveyards. Blink of an Eye in hand still for Tay, and an Icy Manipulator activation here.
And that's it. Seth unable to find an answer for that Weatherlight. 4 Power Flyers are quite good, especially when you can't kill them with sorcery speed removal and their artifacts, so they survive through powerful rares.
Frank Skirin, by the way, an update from Table C where we kicked things off, has managed to 2-0 Fabian Lee, picking up the first match win for his team. Let's check in now on Table B with Corey Baumeister and Kelvin Chu. Kelvin Chu currently up a game, playing some red-blue versus blue-white here for Baumeister.
Oh, wow. Corey down to 1 here.
Jeez.
Already down 1 game.
We came in at the right moment.
Looks like Kelvin has an aggressive red-blue deck. This is one of the best aggro decks in the format. If you can put together a good wizard deck, you are in a very good spot to win a draft.
Corey here kind of discussing what I believe is the blocks of Kelvin Chu's attack with his teammates. One of the best things about team tournaments, hanging out with your friends, playing some Magic, being able to talk about your gameplay as well.
A Rampaging Cyclops getting in there. Card that has overperformed for me, actually. But it didn't look great on paper to me, but I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, it's fine filler.
Love that Fire Fist Adept.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a Flame Tongue Kavu.
Nice. All right, it's actually
it's Corey's
turn to attack there. Swung in.
And Umezawa unblockable there, so.
Wow. Corey Baumeister tying things up there with Kelvin Chu, 1 game apiece. So 1 match win to Manfield, Baumeister, and Skarin as the players shuffle up here for their respective games. So Tae Jun Hao, Kelvin Chu, and Fabian Lee will have to win a match and win a match.
Yeah, Kelvin needs to win this game, and Tay has 2 opportunities to take down the best player in the entire world, Seth Manfield.
No big deal.
Seth Manfield, what he's done over the last few years is kind of unbelievable, and it was a long time coming. It's been over a half decade that I've been watching Seth at Grand Prix, and he's been getting better and better over time, and he's been knocking on the door of the top 8 at Grand Prix, and then finally breaking that wall, and then top 8ing an occasional Grand Prix, and then top 8ing a Pro Tour, and then winning the World Championship, and then winning a Pro Tour, and suddenly Seth is the best Magic player in the entire world, and it's purely because of the amount of work that he put into it. He really just forced himself to be the best player in the world, because if not him, then who?
We had a profile video on Seth Manfield at the last Pro Tour, or 2 Pro Tours ago, I can't quite remember, and Seth's friends at the local game shop where he plays said, he's been playing there since he was a young kid, and we used to chalk up his luck to just little kid luck when he was playing at the store, until he started doing better and better, and we're like, oh, wait a second, this kid's actually really got something. A lot of people say, he's a very instinctive player who just somehow knows the right thing to do, but can't necessarily always put it into words or explain why it's the right play.
Yeah, he's somebody who has a tremendous amount of analogs to build off of in his brain, and he's played so much Magic, and so much Magic over the last few years that when he's in a situation, he knows what he has to do because he's been in that situation before, more than just about anybody else you can imagine. And that's really the most powerful thing you can do in terms of putting yourself in a position to get better.
All right, let's take a look here at game 2 between Seth Manfield and Tae Jin Hao. Mesa Unicorn is going to kick things off for Tae. And Slimefoot the Stowaway hits the table for Seth. Good old Slimy. You see an icy manipulator in hand there for Tae as well. Davnon Trapper is going to be the play back over to Manfield. Slimefoot, if I had to pick a card that kind of sort of defines Dominaria, Slimefoot would be up high on my list. Just making Saprolings able to draw out the game, can kill you just by your Saprolings dying. It's kind of a creative sort of end game there as well.
Yeah, Slimefoot does it all. It's a mana sink, it's a win condition, it's a powerful defensive card in the mid game. A 2/3 for 3 is entirely defensible in a format like this. Just one of the cards that I really like taking early, because even if I don't end up in a somewhat dedicated Saproling deck, I think that it's good as one of the splash cards in your green XX decks.
Eviscerate there from Seth Manfield on the Trapper shows the respect he gives that card in Tae's deck. Here's a Song of Freyalise.
Now this Song of Freyalise, I'm surprised he didn't tap Slimefoot and maybe make a Saproling there. Leads me to believe he's just going to do it at instant speed. That makes more sense.
Academy Journey Mage sending Slimefoot back to Manfield's hand. We've got an attack from the Weatherlight here. We're going to take a look at the top 5 from Tae. Time of Ice is what's revealed.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And Time of Ice, an incredibly powerful uncommon that's at its very best in aggressive strategies. They can take advantage of the massive tempo lead that a card like Time of Ice gives you.
And it can really erase the work that a card like Song of Freyalise has done.
That's absolutely true.
All right, we're going to tap the Saproling 4 mana blue for Tatyova Benthic Druid here for Manfield.
And Manfield has played some very powerful cards here and has still found himself just overmatched.
I mean, unless you kind of have Disenchant, the Weatherlight is so hard to kill.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to me because, the Tae's turn 2 Mesa Unicorn essentially did absolutely nothing. and here he is in a very, very good position now. Those Weatherlight triggers seem quite powerful in Tae's deck, too.
All right, let's see if it's time to get icy. All right, we're going to play an Aven Sentry instead here for Tae, and it's going to crew the Weatherlight. In comes the Journey Mage. In comes the Weatherlight, crashing through in the air. Seth's going to take 7. And another trigger here from the Weatherlight. He's never missed. There's Raph.
Yeah. I feel like I hit like 20% of the time, even when I've got a bunch.
I'm always terrified of Raph. My opponent's playing blue-white. And there's Chapter 3 of the Song of Freyalise. We've got counters there on Tatyova and the Saproling. But we know about the Time of Ice in Tae Jin Hao's hand.
Yeah, Seth just falling behind on this board. Song, very good, but Seth, even though he's drawn all these extra cards with Tatyova, still finding himself facing off against 7 points of flying power on the other side of the table. It doesn't seem like he has many ways to deal with a card like Weatherlight. Weatherlight, we have to remember, because it's a vehicle, Seth can't use normal creature removal to kill it on his turn. And it seems like most of Seth's removal
it's like eviscerates.
is a sorcery. Yeah.
Slimefoot's going to hit the table once again here for Manfield after it was bounced from the Journey Mage. And Skittering Surveyor will search up an island here for Seth. Pass the turn back over to Tay. He's got a grip of good stuff. Wrath Capuchin in there. Time of Ice.
I mean, he doesn't even really need to use the Time of Ice at this point because he has such clean attacks in the air.
Oh, did I just see a Teferi in his hand as well?
I did not, but
okay,
it's
maybe
absolutely
I'm out
a possibility.
Of my mind.
I think it was the Wrath.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It was the Wrath next to the Time of Ice. My brain put them together. Knight of Grace here for Tay.
And because it's bigger,
yep.
Crew that Weatherlight.
Because we've got Slimefoot on the table for Manfield, it does have 3 power. Crew the Weatherlight, get in there with the Weatherlight and the Aven Sentry. And once again, this is just the desperation fungal infection from Manfield. Shrinking down the Aven Sentry. Tay's going to get another look at the top of his of his library and hits again. Danitha this time. Time of Ice, Wrath Capuchin, Danitha. 3 pretty good cards to draw.
Yeah, I mean, when you're just getting those cards just from attacking your opponent for 4 in the air as a bonus, it's quite the deal.
Players here at the GP are assigned seats. You're either player A, B, or C. Coming in, that is decided. And you play the person with the same letter, and that'll do it. Tay Junhao taking down this match versus Seth Manfield. We are all tied up. It has come down to Corey Baumeister and Kelvin Chu on table B.
In that last game, we really saw the power of evasion in this format, and you'll notice that a lot if you play a lot of this format. That,
oh, yes.
Flyers and things that cannot be blocked have a lot to do with winning when you're playing Dominaria Limited.
Speaking of evasion, we've got an Aven Sentry in play here for Baumeister as well as a Tetsuko. Benalish Marshall on the table as well. All 3 are going to turn sideways.
Yeah, now...
not looking good for Kelvin.
Kelvin there, going to take 6 damage. Benalish Marshall, a really powerful card, lends itself to aggressive strategies, good in everything. Normally anthems cost 3. This is an anthem that also gives us a 3/3.
I love it. I just wish I could play 1/1s right now in Standard. Sad face. Goblin Chain Whirler.
Yeah, that card has overperformed quite a lot.
And there's just the handshakes all around the table. As the teams pack it in here for round 3. Manfield, Baumeister, Skarin taking down that match.
Yeah.
3-0.
From the looks of it, it seemed like Seth had a really, really powerful green-black deck. We watched him play. But he was matched up against kind of the best deck against those types of decks, which is a deck that has a lot of evasion, a lot of flyers. The green-black decks need good answers to those.
Flying, why is it so good in Dominaria?
The ground gets gummed up real fast. You get to a point where the ground is so wide and there are so many differing sizes of bodies that it becomes really hard for either player to attack profitably. And once that happens, the sky is where the game is played.
All right, well, we'll have more Magic from round 3, our time lock match, after this.
The best thing about being in cosplay, I get to talk to so many more people this way. People actually approach me, and it's a good way to meet people because people come and they love taking their pictures with me. And also when I do things like, as Garrick, I have an axe, and when I go to play, I plunk my axe down on the table, which sometimes just gets people looking up and they're like, oh, hey. Actually, one of my favorite comments, I was dressed as a Maratandrist, and someone came up to me and they thanked me for bringing a character to life for them, and that was awesome.
Welcome back here to the booth. Maria Bartholdi, Jacob Van Lunen here at Grand Prix DC. We are playing some Team Sealed. We've got some Time Walk magic for you. Time Walk magic. More magic here from round 3. Let's head down to the feature match area. Jacob Bau versus Jeremy Dazani. Tomohiro Saito, Raf Levy, and Dazani teaming up here for this Grand Prix.
That's a pretty impressive team there.
Oh, yeah. Unicorn here for Jacob.
a lot of these players may not have been here if it weren't for the fact that there's a Pro Tour next weekend.
Yes. Getting some limited testing done here this weekend. Wizards Lightning is going to take care of that unicorn.
And Jacob's probably quite happy with that. Wizards Lightning, a really high-quality card. Mesa Unicorn. It's fine.
And a better 2-drop here in the form of Knight of Grace anyway.
Yeah. Knight of Grace really top tier when it comes to 2-drops in this set. First strike is really valuable. It makes it better late. And also pairs very well with a number of pump spells and makes uncommons like Quende quite a bit better too.
All right, we're going to get in for 2 here after Dazani played Urza's Tome.
Ooh.
I like it. Call the Cavalry, the follow-up play here for Jacob.
Yeah, I like the Tome when, you've got a ton of stuff in play and, the board's already been settled down. But when you're stuck on 3 lands and you can't cast anything, your opponent's got 6 points of power. Could be rough. Frenchman here trying to defeat a Jacob.
I was going to say, I hope Dazani's deck is mono red. That'd be pretty cool. But it's not. He's just missing his black mana. I see a black card in hand. Urza's Tome costs 3 to tap, draw a card, discard a card unless you exile a historic card from your graveyard. Yeah, we're just going to have to play a Get-To Chronicler here for 2. Very sad, just a 1/3. I guess it can block a Knight.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why Get-To Chronicler is so good, though. If it was just a 1/3 that rebought a spell, it would be fine. But the fact that you can also play it in this type of fashion, it means that, it can be a good defensive body also.
All right, we've got a dub making a double Knight here for Jacob. Manages to smash in for quite a chunk of damage there.
And interesting, I wonder if does this Knight of the Knight of Grace was just a 2/1 on that attack, wasn't it? Is there something we didn't know about?
Well, you could imagine that it's something like Adamant Will or something. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
There's the black mana here for Dazani, who's going to divest Jacob.
Jeremy's deck looking interesting here for looking at an Urza's Tome and a Divest. A couple of cards I've not played much with.
He's like, okay, take a look. And sure enough, there's that Adamant Will. Blessed Light in an Ancient Animus in hand for Jacob.
Yeah, now no board.
Total miss on that Divest as it only nabs an artifact or a creature card. Able to take down the Chronicler there as well with the Animus. Yeah, Dazani has really not been able to put anything together so far yet this game. All that's in play was that Urza's Tome, and he's just going to scoop him up. That was a fast one. Jacob taking down game 1 there versus Dazani.
Yeah, Jacob with a green-white deck here. Green-white oftentimes viewed as a deck that doesn't have much interaction and is instead trying to be really aggressive, win the game in that fashion. But
a fair deck.
Yeah, in this format, it's got a little more play. I think the fact that you get Blessed Light is a pretty big factor. It's one of the very best common removal spells. The fact that it's able to deal with enchantments is very important in this format. Just a great card. And when you're playing this limited environment, basically every deck is some shade of mid-range. There are very few decks that are truly pure aggro.
Let's take a peek in here at Table B. Edgar Mogglehays versus Raf Levy.
And Zahid.
Ooh, Zahid, Djinn of the Lamp here on Levy's team. Slimefoot in play for Moggle Hayes. Everybody's coming in here for Raph. Let's tap 4. Make another Saproling. So Slimefoot blocking one knight, 2 Saprolings in front of the other. See if Levy has a response here.
Oh, it's a Gideon's Reproach, right?
Yep, Gideon's Reproach there on Slimefoot, and nothing Edgar can do about it. So the Djinn will get in, and a knight will survive for Raphael Levy. Adventurous Impulse here for Edgar. He's going to find a Whisper, Blood Liturgist. Too bad Slimefoot's gone. Deathbloom Thallid is the follow-up play.
That does make multiple bodies, does combo nicely with Whisper, but Edgar doesn't have much time here.
No, Academy Journey Mage is just going to send him packing. Raph Levy picking up game 1 here on table B. Meanwhile, Tomohiro Saito picking up game 1 versus Dave Goldfarb there on table A.
Yeah, Zahid has been one of my favorite cards to play with in this set also.
So good.
I think my favorite thing to do, and I've done it a lot already, is Skittering Surveyor into Zahid.
How do you come back from that? So good.
I mean, they have a removal spell sometimes. That's one of the other reasons why I love this format, though, is that the bombs are good. They're still bombs. They still win the game by themselves. But pretty much every bomb can be dealt with at the common level.
Right.
And I love that. Even Multani, which I think is the best card in the set, Blessed Light just exiles it, just gets rid of it. And that's just a common.
Right.
That anybody who has access to it will be playing it. So here we're looking at a format where there are all these really powerful cards, but none of them just like win the game before you're able to deal with them.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a key that at least I've learned in this set. Have your bombs be able to be dealt with at common.
Yeah.
Pretty good rule of thumb. All right, we're shuffling up here on table A. Once our players are ready, we'll get a look at this matchup. As we said, this is a team tournament, of course, as you can tell from the 6 names on your screen. Players building decks out of 12 packs of Dominaria, 3 different decks. The A players play the A players, B players play B, and C players play C from any given team. Sometimes there's a little bit of discussion as to who is going to sit in which seat. Sometimes the B player is a stronger player and can give advice to A and C. But sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you also might want to put your fastest deck in the middle seat, hoping that they will finish their round the soonest so that you will have access to them in your other matches sooner. Dave, it looks like, is the blue-red wizard deck, I believe.
Nice.
This is your favorite deck.
Absolutely. You know what's interesting, too, is after we've kind of, the dust has settled on day 1 of this tournament, we'll be able to see which decks happened more often in the pools. Like, was there usually a red-white wizards deck that players were able to assemble from their 12 packs? That kind of thing.
That's one thing I did a bit of when I was walking around this morning, looking at people building their pools. So I was trying to figure out which decks were the decks that I was seeing most often. I think red-blue was up there. Black-white is a deck that I see come together quite a bit. It's just a deck of powerful cards.
I'm most excited for all those 3, 4, and 5 color decks. All right, so we're here on table C, moving things right along here in our time walk match. We are speeding things up, as you can definitely tell as we barrel towards round 4 here in the building. Knight of Grace in play for Jacob, Keldon Raider for Jeremy.
Jacob unable to find more lands, just going to get run over here probably.
Keldon Raider is able to swing in and right of Belzenlock here for Jeremy. Just another excellent saga. There is a third land. It is a forest, but is it too little too late because a 6/6 demon is about to come knocking on his door.
Yeah, going to need to find some clerics here.
And Marwin the Nurturer is unfortunately not going to do much of anything for Jacob.
Yeah, it works Jacob out of his mana hole a little bit here, but
Keldon Raider still able to attack. Llanowar Elves, all right, we're doing it.
Yeah, we're going off. Marwin.
I've never seen Marwin
Yeah, I've never seen Marwin get a counter before. This is very exciting for me.
I honestly haven't. A cleric able to jump in front there. And then a Call the Cavalry builds Jacob's board back up a little bit.
And now Jacob has all the mana he needs forever, basically. He went from just having access to 2 to having access to 7 over the course of
cool.
2 turns.
But can he deal with a demon? And how about Jaya's Immolating Inferno?
Oh my
Here
goodness.
we go. Oh, wow. Takes down 3 of the creatures,
Jeez.
swings on in. Jeremy Desani picking up that game to tie things up in his match with Jacob. All right, here on table A, finished up, and we are into the game. Saito currently up game over Dave Goldfarb. Bunch of Saprolings in play, and Omnivore has been deeply frozen. A Merfolk Trickster for Dave. 7-18. Here's a Mammoth Spider for Saito. It's going to get syncopated, though. Heads to exile.
The 2/2 doing a good job of holding back this army of Saprolings.
The most adorable army.
They doing their migratory dance.
I hope so. Just booping and bopping. Deathbloom Thallid for Saito here.
And that's something that can attack into this Merfolk Trickster.
Sapling Migration just for 2. Gets a couple more Sapling tokens here.
Interesting there. Dave playing a Memorial to War.
Is that what happened? I was sitting there like, how did that forest ended up in the graveyard playing Memorial to War? You're right.
Yeah, card you don't see a lot of in draft. I kind of avoid it like the plague, but in this sealed environment, there's a lot of splashing happening. These games are going really long. We know that Tamaharo is, a 4-color deck here.
Wow.
Green,
that's some spice. I love it.
Yeah, green is Saito's main color here. Dave cut him off from green.
Get to Chronicler here for Dave. Two Tricksters on the table as well. Able to attack in there is the Deathbloom Thallid. Gets another Saproling. Quite an army of Saprolings for Saito. Though perhaps taking off his main color.
Yeah, from the looks of it, Saito is almost a mono green deck, splashing a bunch of other colors.
No way to play anything. Hasn't found another forest. Yeah, it just has to keep passing the turn back to Dave.
And now Dave can turn the corner and start attacking in the air.
Adeliz the Cinderwind gets in. It's just going to be the Cloud Reader Sphinx, though. It's going to get sealed away, so Saito does at least have a play there. Finds a swamp, passes back to Dave.
Yeah, Dave, doesn't feel comfortable attacking with his life total as it is.
I would love to just see a charge. Do, 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 do.
Yeah, there were definitely a few turns where a charge would have been good enough there.
Ooh, blessed light here from Saito. Exiling this deep freeze. But it is going to get syncopated.
A syncopate, a card that has overperformed for me, a card that I didn't imagine would be particularly strong. Makes my deck almost half the time.
We've already seen it
1F.
today quite a number of times.
Yeah.
Once, everybody, if you weren't here for it, we saw a syncopate counter Jazz immolating Inferno for 11.
That's correct. And that was probably the play that secured victory in the first round we watched.
Oh, and finally another forest here for Saito. Fungal plots. Oh, this is looking pretty cool. Deathbloom Foul comes on in. Merfolk Trickster trades. Another Saproling for Saito. Goldfarb on 7 life.
Ooh. Wow. I love it.
This is great. Well, the Shivan Fire deals with the Spore Crown Thal there on Saito's side of the battlefield, so the attacks weren't quite as good as they could have been, but Goldfarb's just going to extend the hand. That was excellent.
Yeah, Moldrova.
Moldrova. I love that card.
Yes.
All right, so the team of Saito, Levy, and Dazani is going to pick up the W there in round number 3. More Magic's coming your way after this.